term of having through the back of the wardrobe as a theme. And I thought, right, okay, how can we follow this theme on? And I wanted to carry it on as books. So I came up with this, where the wild things are. Let's not look at that first. Okay, so that's just, so basically if you haven't read the email, where the wild things are, it's about a little boy, and he was actually being naughty. So he got sent to his room by his mom, and he was dressed up as a wolf and pretending to be a wolf, and things got out of hand, and that's when his mom said, right, bedroom with you, you're not listening. So he was dressed up as a wolf in his bedroom, and door got closed, and he started imagining animals, which then became his wild things and his beasties. But they were all really, really naughty, so he had to tame them. So the whole story goes on about how he tames his wild things, and he becomes the king. So once all his subjects were under his thumb, he thought, well, this is getting a bit boring. There's nobody being naughty anymore. Now what am I going to do? So he thought, oh dear. So he got in his boat and he sailed back across the sea onto his bed and found his dinner waiting for him. And that's the end of the story. Wow.
Yes.
Look at that koala bear. But he's also a bit of a, what do you call those birds? A hummingbird sucking out the nectar.
Yeah, right.
And he's an octopus. Look.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
So I won't, but that's got to be one of my favourites. A little bear become a ladybird.
Yes.
So have a look at the book. I'll leave it on the table. But really, when you talk about imagination, that's what it's all about. Is how far does your imagination go?
Have you seen the crab?
I think there's some beautiful things in here. Now, when Helen told me about the book in her email, because I'm into hippos at the moment, I've been trying to work out how I could create a hippo with duck's feet, and it just wasn't working. But I think you need to, see some sort of inspiration. So, Bluebells before. After 15 years, you have to have done Bluebells before.
Yeah, I remember buying the second pot of masking fluid.
Yes.
We put layers and layers.
So I thought, well, how can we do Bluebells in a different way? Also realising that some people probably haven't done it before. So what I'm going to do, having worked out the colours, is give some techniques and then give you free license. So for those who've brought their own images, use your own images. If you haven't got your own images, I have got some. But I'm just going to quickly run through my wild things ideas in my head, because that's where it's going. Okay, so my first thing was, I saw that on Pinterest. I thought, actually, I quite like that. It doesn't actually say Bluebells, but can I use it as inspiration and convert it? Which I very quickly did. Don't know if I like it, but it was something. Okay. And actually it's growing on me. So it's now stuck in, it's still Bluebell Woods. I've changed the background. I actually stuck this onto that, but I think you can do it on one piece of paper. Well, you can. The techniques we're going to be using, obviously wet and wet, using masking tape as a resist. So I've used it here, and we're going to be using it in the trees. Using the credit card to get the texture in the trees, and also creating the bluebells. And we're going to try two ways. I know not everybody's got brusho. You can have a try with brusho if you want to. I've got a little pot.
What's brusho?
Brusho is a powdered form of ink. It is incredibly I'm not.
Got something like that.
Yeah, it's very, very. They also call it pixie dust. It's very, very intense. So it's like salt,
You just need a tiny
a
bit.
tiny bit.
It's great for creating.
Yeah. So although that says purple, it probably doesn't look purple in its true form. Okay, so you've got to be a little bit careful with it, but it's quite fun to use. And if you haven't got brusher, we're going to have a little play with coloured pencils and scraping them, which we have done before. So it is all about creating your own bluebell wood in your own way. If you wanted to be really creative, the same as I've painted the outside, being that could be the mount, or I could put a mount over that, around it. You could do your bluebell wood and draw on top of it, on the mount. So you're bringing it over the mount. So we've got 2 weeks. So it's how much time do you want to spend on it, knowing that we're all different. And some of us are newer with the techniques than others. So we'll be concentrating on the techniques. The other thing I thought of was actually doing 2 or 3 bluebell woods within one, which was sort of where that started. I thought, So those are 2 bluebell woods within one. Then I did some little thumbnails. There's 2, there's 3. So it's just thinking a little bit out of the box, in keeping with my brain.
As it's working at the moment.
It's working at the moment. Next week it might be having little, I will have to restrain myself from putting little pixies in that behind the bluebells. Well, I might still do it. Okay, so I thought there was something else I had here to show you, but I don't know where it is. Oh yes, it is. Wet any of these. Let's wet them. So there's my cobalt blue, Opera Rose, and that's my new gamboge, so we're going to use that one. Okay, so those are the 3 colours for now, but our main bluebell colour is cobalt blue and the Opera Rose, and depending on how pink or how blue we want them, because they're not all exactly the same colour, we just keep adjusting and playing on that. Okay, that's my test piece. And then the other thing that we need to be able to make is ultramarine blue, burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, which makes a really, really nice dark. Okay, this. Oops. So there's my burnt sienna. Come on. My ultramarine blue. And I've got a nice dark for the tree. So quite a nice simple palette. If we wanted to make the green, we've got the new gamboge on its own. We've got the cobalt. So if we put the cobalt into it, if I put more yellow into it, I'll change the colour. If I want to mucky it down, I've got burnt sienna in my palette, so I can mucky it down as well. Okay, right, so let's play. First thing that we're going to do, and I'm only going to do this little play things on little bits of paper, is we're going to design our composition. So we've all done that before, where we do a little thumbnail and decide what we want in our painting. If you are going to use the picture that I sent over, then it's quite simple. You don't have to design anything. You don't have to change anything. we'll just go with the flow. So we're going to take our masking tape, and I find it's easiest if you stick one side down and then tear it long ways. It's supposed to be okay. So there's a tree. Obviously the trees are fatter. I'll use that one. Yep, why not? Make it going that way. And you can put on as many trees as you like. I've got 3, so I'm only going to do 3 because I'll draw the others in. When we come to paint this, what we do is we paint over our masking fluid. So just say I'm going to have my levels there, and I like to use a square brush. So I've got no other mask or anything on my, I said masking fluid, but I'm actually meant the masking tape. And I have put yellow into my clean water. So, right, so that's my sky, very pale to start with. If I wanted to, I could start putting some green in the gaps. Okay, going right over my trees. So when we finish and we take off those trees, they will be white and we will have to paint them. Right, so I've got some of my Bluebell wood colour on my towel. So I'm just going to, I'm doing this very quickly, just to show you, give you an idea. I'm changing the colour all the time. Notice how, if I want to have a bank of bluebells, you see how I'm angling my brush downwards, okay? And I'm still leaving some gaps. So, put a bit of green in there. Notice that when I put the green in, because I've got a gap where I've got no colour, I can control whether that green fades into the purple or not. Right, and I'm going to make this a lot stronger in the foreground to start with, because I do want it. I'm not painting over the green. Right, quite happy with that. Okay, so got a cauliflower there, absolutely fine. It doesn't matter which painting you're doing, what you've drawn on your thumbnails. If you stick to this process, it's going to work. Okay, so we'll dry that. Next little technique, we are going to take some wax, or that's just a white crayon, and I'm literally going to just put some marks, not too many. I can actually do some squiggles in the foreground. I'm not going to do too many in my sky, so I'm just, these marks here are sort of long and short, and down here they're just random. So can't really see what I've done. And we're going to put in some bluebells in the foreground. And we're going to do some with that and some with this. So the best thing to do if you are using the brusho is there's a little hole in the top, and I always cover it up with a piece of masking tape. That's just to stop it coming out. You don't open that lid, because if you open that lid, you're going to end up with brusho everywhere. And it is, and I'm going to keep this to the foreground here. Now there's two ways of doing this. We can put it on to damp paper. Okay. You see why? It's how
I've
hard I
got
want
pink,
it to go.
white, and blue.
I've got
Bluebells.
yeah.
Is it that colour?
Oh, pink, white, and oh.
Yeah, all different colours.
Yep. Now I can spray that a bit more. I can also add little drops of water, but it's best to just leave it be, okay? Because it just creates a bit of texture. Now the other way of doing those bluebells is to put your brusho onto dry paper. You see, it doesn't even look purple, does it? So in other words, if I hadn't wet the paper first, you don't want too much, because watch, and then I'm just spraying it. So the closer I go, the more out of control it's going to become. Okay.
It's got more than one colour in it, hasn't it?
It has got more than one colour in it, and that's the nature of brusho. Okay.
Interesting.
Quite fun to use, and it does give quite a nice texture. You can also, but look at the mess, and if that gets on your clothes, it will not come off. Lucy's got white trousers on. Okay, so the other option
It could be trendy.
is to wet your paper and it does depend on your watercolour pencils. Look, you see where the little spots have gone.
Goes a long
And
way.
I did have another, oh, there it is. And if you take your and you can combine more than one colour. And you see what's happening. As it's sitting, it is dissolving. So quite a nice way to get texture again in the foreground. You can put little dots. I'm using yellow water. So if you wanted to make it bleed quicker or stronger,
Very delicate.
it's a lot more delicate and more controlled. See how I can put little, if I put that stronger, I can put little daisies in there in between without them being in my face. Okay, so another option. Right, so let's take these off. So again, I'm going to, it'll be alright actually. I'm going to take that off. Now, under normal circumstances, I would have 3 or 4 layers on here. Okay, that's not ready, but I want to show you the technique for doing the trees. So what I'm doing is showing you all the possible techniques you can use, and then letting you employ them as and where. Okay, so you can either use blue or you can mix up the colour that you want. I tend to quite like the darker colour, which is my ultramarine and burnt sienna. And there's 2 ways of doing this as well, actually. I'll do the one way on here and then another way on another piece of paper. So some of these things, or most of these things, we've done before. But if you're like me, you tend to forget. Okay, so I've got the paint is on that edge and I'm putting it there, and I'm not using an awful lot of pressure, but I am sort of squashing it down. Okay, and then I can use whatever colour I like. I'm going to go for more of a greeny colour, and I can wet some of that, because obviously we don't want a white tree trunk.
Are we leaving the masking tape on?
Now I've taken it off.
Oh, you took it off.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
there
missed
it is.
that.
Okay, but I've only taken one off.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's your tree, and you can darken it up if you want to. That was on dry paper. Now there is a trick. We'll come back to that. The other way of doing it, and I will just draw the tree, is by wetting it first, and I'm going to just put some colour on there. Okay. Want that to be a little bit thicker. And notice that I'm going from one side. I'm not going, you can go from both sides, but I'm only going from one side. Come on, I want some down there, please. Right, so if you go just off the wet, when I did that one, I started on the wet paper. When I did those ones, I started just to the side of the wet paper. So you get a slightly thicker mark. Okay, so that's wet on wet, and that's a dry. Now, I have sort of jumped a step because there's also no branches on there yet. We also need, I've been to the kitchen, I've got some warm water and a little bit of soap. I have actually got some soap somewhere. So I'll use it. I don't want to really mess up my toothbrush. So I'm just going to soak my toothbrush. Hope that's dry, it is. I could even put a little bit of that down here.
Is that masking fluid?
This is just masking fluid. So what I'm creating are all those little highlights. Okay, now I've done it on top of colour so that when I take it off it's not white. Okay.
Is the soap to create a barrier so it doesn't stick to your toothbrush?
Yeah, so it creates the same as when we're using a paintbrush. We create a barrier, and I would then normally go and give it a good wash, but I'm just going to put it in there for now. Okay. Right. Now, what I want to show you, I hope, is what happens when we go back in with our second layer. Now, this masking fluid here is all wet. I'm looking for, remember I put that white crayon on? I'm looking to see where that's gone. Here it's coming. Okay. So once I see it, I can actually start using that. I've got dirty paintbrush. And starting to exaggerate it. Okay. So I want to keep that portion lighter than my foreground. So I'm now going to have to darken up my foreground because I'm playing looking for this. There it is, it's still there. There's some there as well. I think that's okay to carry on. So our cobalt and our green. If we want some of these our masking fluid is still a little bit damp. So all these colours are blue in here. I'm trying to stay away from the wet and not stop painting. I'm going to put some yellow in there so that when we come to take it off, with any luck, I can't take it off now because that is not dry. So I will take it off in a bit and show you that you'll have all those nice little highlights coming through. So there's an awful lot of techniques in there. You decide which ones you're going to use, if you're going to use all of them or not. I mean, I've done this very quickly, but it's quite loose, which is what I wanted.